All right, this just coming in from the world of Hollywood. Paul Reubens, who rose to fame in the 1980s as the character Pee-wee Herman on kids' entertainment shows, has died at the age of 70. Reubens' social media accounts posting today that the star died Sunday night after a private 6-year battle with cancer. He did rise to fame in the 1980s, playing Pee-wee Herman. Again, 70 years old, being remembered as a comedian and a man with a lot of tenacity. There were controversies as well during his career. Let's bring in film critic Chris Bumbray, who's joining us from Montreal. Chris, your thoughts hearing this news?
Oh, I mean, shocking. It's one of those things. I was kind of surprised to hear that he was 70, actually, because he always looked so much younger. I always viewed him as almost a child, even though he wasn't, right? He was a man child in all those movies. Yeah, sad, because I mean, I grew up watching Pee-wee Herman. Pee-wee's Big Adventure was one of my favorite movies as a child. I just watched it over and over again. And me and my friends, we used to always say to each other, I know you were, but what am I? Just over and over again. Um, Pee-wee's Playhouse. I used to watch that every Saturday morning. That was an iconic show. Lawrence Fishburne's first role, funny enough. And then there was Big Top Pee-wee, and then even recently there was Pee-wee's Holiday on Netflix. So I mean, he was kind of coming back.
Yeah, and the character resonating with audiences with sort of weird, kind of quirky, very eccentric, very exaggerated kids character.
Yeah, but it was one of those things like you never really sure what he was, right? If he was a kid or if he was a childlike adult. I mean, he had his own house. He had all these gadgets. I remember he had his like toast machine, Mr. Toast. And he had the first movie, he was riding around on his bike and his bike got stolen and he went on this kind of cross country trip to find it. But he had a girlfriend at times. You never really knew what he was. Was he a child? Was he a man? Was he something in between? It was just this character that people loved, but it was a smartly written character too. I mean, Paul Reubens was a very good writer. He co-wrote and co-created the character with the late Phil Hartman, actually.
Let's talk about the controversy as well. In the early 1990s, he's arrested for exposure at an adult cinema, and it would take about 20 years before he would play Pee-wee Herman again.
The thing about that was I think everybody viewed him as a children's entertainer, right? And he wasn't. He really wasn't. Pee-wee Herman was started as kind of an adult-oriented character. In fact, the first Pee-wee Herman specials on HBO were actually quite dirty. Right, he toned it down for the first movie, which was still PG-13, and then kids just kind of latched on to the character, and then it became what it was, kind of this children's TV host. He never kind of pretended to be that kind of character himself in real life. And yeah, I mean, the porn theater arrest definitely had an effect on his career, but he moved into character acting. He was on Murphy Brown for a long time. He was in Mystery Men. He was pretty good in that movie, actually. And then eventually, I think the controversy just died down, and he returned to the character. But it was one of those things that he swore off for a long time because parents didn't want him, didn't want their children watching anything that he was involved in because they just all thought of him as this kind of, the kind of seedy character, even though, he never did try to put himself off as this children's TV host. He wasn't Mr. Rogers, right? It was just something that we all kind of made him into.
Chris Bumbray, film critic, joining us from Montreal with his thoughts. Pee-wee Herman, the actor Paul Reubens, behind that quite iconic character, dying at the age of 70 of cancer. Thanks for this, Chris. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Todd. Thank you.